All right, so now that we've kind of touched base about like your experience with Tourette's and just like how you perceive Tourette's in general, I would say we can segue into
My life?
yeah, honestly, your life, in your experiences, because we're both the same age. We're 20. At the college right now. That's where we met.
College is better than high school. Fact.
Exactly, but explain that because a lot of people, they have a lot of issues in high school, and it can be hard for them knowing, hey, I still have to go to school after this. I still have to, experience all the stuff that comes with school. They don't know how different.
I remember like being fearful in high school. That she's like, "Oh yeah, we're prepping you for college." You get to college, it's like, bro, this is like.
It's chillest.
It's chill. It's easy at times. It's obviously a challenge, but it's the challenge to where you actually like.
Yes.
Unless it's a gen ed.
Well, because your
gen eds are always hell.
Exactly.
You can't
but
escape
you can
that.
knock those out in your first semester if you do it correctly. Honestly, that's what I mean. Your first 2 semesters.
Well, Maryville's been kind of like mixing them, at least for me. Like
Yeah.
I've been taking my studio classes. I'm a graphic design major, so I take studio classes. I've been taking my gen eds with my studio classes. So like just this semester, I'm taking a philosophy and a history class.
Those are obviously your gen eds.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say for me personally, I decided within my first 2 semesters, I spoke with my academic advisor to knock all those out first. And I would recommend that to people if you're somebody that can't sit through classes that have nothing to do with what you want to do in life, like myself. I have a hard time sitting in a class that talks about the history of like Native Americans. Like I have a hard time taking a class that has nothing to do with my purpose in life. And that was my struggle in high school. I got great grades. I had no problem. I could put on the fake facade. But it's just, I guess like that stress and anxiety that comes with what like you said, the teachers will pretty much push down your throat. Hey, your life's about to get a lot more difficult. When yes, that is true, but it gets more difficult in a positive way, I guess, depending on how you look at it, because the struggles do increase and the stress increases, but it also shapes you into becoming a better man or woman. What I've experienced,
or
like
just person in general.
Person in general, yeah. I don't know. That's just my perception of it overall, but I would say with keeping that in mind, like from what you've told me, your experience with how people perceive you and how you perceive yourself was a struggle for you in a way in high school?
So it's actually earlier than that. So I'll be willing to say this. If you have any kind of mental disorder, whether it be Tourette's, ADHD, autism, whatever it is, I'm going to say that in the modern day today, it is a lot better, and I've seen it personally. I was a camp counselor, for example, this summer as a job, and I was a what's called a support staff, and I looked after a kid with a 6-year-old with autism. He's a great kid, super nice, really energetic. He was great. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that all the kids who are also 6 years old treated him exactly the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same for later on, but I will say that these days there's a lot more studies, research, and a lot more
information available out there.
But also just implementing those kids into the social and teaching environment is a lot better than it used to be. Because the time that I grew up, even with just as early Gen Zer, we were bullied a lot. We were teased because the people who taught us just didn't know how to interact and deal with us.
You felt alienated in a way?
Oh yeah, we were definitely alienated, especially those who had autism. Or those who were severe in the spectrum, because I would hear people mock their sounds. Obviously, yeah, we're all elementary or middle school kids or even high school kids. We're all dumb. We don't know better. Because we don't, and most of the time it's just because they don't understand it.
Sure.
And then as soon as they grow up and the mature, it's like, oh crap, they kind of realize, or they just don't care.
It all depends on what kind of person you catch, I guess. But I guess what could put some people's minds at ease is the general people. When you go to college especially, you're going to be in classes with some people that are in their mid-20s, that have whole families, and there are moms and dads. From the classes I've been in classes sitting next to full-on moms. They have their whole life ahead. It's just, it's different per major.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that, Maryville in particular, too, not to, plug them, but also to plug them, I guess, is it's a very diverse college. You know what I'm saying? You find, when I went to the first orientations freshman year, there was club stands for everything. Pretty much every race, culture.
I wish I could go to the. I think it's called the Involvement Fair or something like that. There's a whole tables of clubs you can sign up, and everyone you can sign up and get free stuff, mostly just candy and little trinkets.
Dude, yeah, when I moved back off of campus, I had so much shit, man, and I still do to this day. I have so much stuff stacked up, and it's good for memory purposes.
A Ziploc of just stickers.
Honestly, yeah. Well, okay. Well, I guess in general, then, when it comes to now that we've talked about how have you grown from that?
obviously, the more we advance and the more the time goes on, things will get better, especially when it comes to ableism, even sexism and racism. Everything's getting better these days. I mean, obviously there's still a lot. Obviously, there's still a lot of issues, but let's be honest. Compared to now, today, compared to 20 years ago or 10 years ago,
it's definitely in a better spot. But I'd say people have misconstrued the message in a lot of instances. Like, there's a lot of movements out there within these, I guess, organizations that are trying to push for equality that aren't necessarily bad, but there's a lot of messages in there that are it's like it hits people in an uncomfortable way. Like, and I'm not saying every organization is like this, but I feel like in the process of a lot of people pushing for equality, they actually push more diversity. I guess my point is this: we're headed in a better direction. Yes, we're in a better direction 20 years ago, but I want to make sure we don't overcomplicate it, because especially within the LGBTQ community and a lot of other diverse communities out there, there's a lot of complex factors that are being put into play. For example, when you look at the gender situation or whatever and sexuality-based things, there's definitely more than just the one or the other. But I feel like it's gotten to a very complicated spot. Like, I had to take a test about...
In my honest opinion, I don't know much about it. I'm still very new to experiencing the community. I feel like in the age we're in right now, especially, even with just our generation, it's like we're going through a lot of experimenting and just kind of paving the way for something that I think might become bigger in the future.
Greater?
Even soon. Yeah, or greater and soon in the future.
Yeah, and a lot of people explain Gen Z as being the generation that serves the middle part for the evolution of, like, you know, the olden days to what'll be the future world that we're headed towards. We're just kind of in that awkward middle spot. Like, I feel like
we were born right when the boom of technology and the genetic age began.
Well, and you just said it earlier too. We just missed it, but right before they started really including people with autism or people with, like,
it was all like just beginning when
we left.
I was young.
It's really also, I saw a huge shift when the pandemic actually happened in 2020.
Yeah.
When a lot of people were pushed and forced to be at their homes or whatever, it gave them a lot more time to think, and I think that definitely contributed.
Everyone was kind of put in the same boat.
Yeah, and it helped people understand one another a lot more, which is a beautiful thing.
Big spike in depression.
Dude, yeah, and that's a bit. Actually, that year really pushed
everyone
me
just
to
kind
enter
of
into my
became
field.
crap at socializing, and just everyone was online.
And you're still seeing effects of that to this day.
That's why VR was like such a huge thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna say we can actually segue into that, like the way the state of the world right now when it comes to just interactions among each other or whatever. I feel like is still seeing effects from the year 2020. Like, we're in 2023 now, but people do not know how to talk to each other still. If you try and say, not everybody, but the general people.
There's still things that are still getting back to what they used to be.
But that's the question. Is there ever like a back to used to be? Or if we kind of just kind of accepted
I'd say in some ways we'll probably go back to some older ways, but I'd say in also not of new ways. We're coming out with tons of... I can't talk. We're coming out of COVID with a lot of new views on things, and there will be some changes, definitely.
In what regard, though? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I'm sure there's things that are changing now, just that COVID's over. Because, I mean, when was the last time we had a pandemic?
I could be wrong about this, so don't quote me on it. But the swine flu, I think, happened in either 2011 or 2009. One of those. And it wasn't as bad as COVID got. It didn't last as long.
Well, I also know, like, just the 2000s itself. We've had a lot positive and a lot negative happen.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, that's part of evolution, though. And a lot of people, we have more technology now, so people are thinking we're living in the worst times possible. But if you had this technology back then, it's similar. It's the similar shit. People don't learn from history. History repeats
We are in what's called the technology and the genetic age. We are developing CRISPR. We are developing... we're developing quantum computing is starting to become a thing. Quantum pairing. We're discovering all these new scientific breakthroughs. And the early 2000s will be probably forever known as the beginning of the genetic and
technological evolution. You remember when it first started that people were really scared that there's going to be blackouts? I don't know if you know much about this, but when they first introduced the idea of a computer, Wi-Fi, everything like that, people were, number one, worried about their identity.
I remember learning about Y2K when 2000 hit.
Yeah, but like everything eventually was like a scare to them. And I feel like, in a way, with AI, I think that's where we're at now, because AI seems like the next step up from the technology we've already had, and people are scared because it's really creepy. But and that's, we were talking about social interactions between people. I wouldn't be surprised if in 15 years you see people walking around with holograms.
Remember
You see people
hearing that one thing in the news about that one guy who married Hatsune Miku?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It was called a digisexual. He literally dated a early version of an AI.
Really?
It's not even really AI. It's just like
My Stranger
the
Days.
internet's gonna know what I'm talking about. But like, I remember hearing about it. It's just like, you know, and you see that in like, you've seen that in the new, you've seen that in with the Blade Runner, the new
Dude,
one.
yes,
You've
the
seen
Blade
that in
Runner
any kind of
2049.
sci-fi. There's gonna be people who are like dating AI or androids, something like that. Instead of finding a partner, you can just make your partner.
I
you
mean,
know?
that sounds kind of cool. Though. If that's me. Imagine, and like I think we talked about this before, having them like open the door or something like that to be like a server for you or whatever. I don't know.
Assistant.
I feel like people would take that to a whole nother level. But the worry,
Trash can. Turn on the TV.
makes people. But no, the point of what I was trying to say though is with the computers that first started back then. I mean, I asked my grandma or other people that were getting introduced to it. They're from the ancient days. They would say that the worry was that there's going to be blackout or there's going to be identity theft, which did happen, but not to the
Actually,
degree
there's
that they
new
pointed
issues
out.
with that. They're saying
It's
that
always come. Well, that's
with quantum computing, because usually in remote computing you can have a value of either 1 or 0, but now it can have between those two.
Really?
Like I think it was like decimals. I don't know much about it, but like basically all of our private information, all that stuff could be easily.
manipulated or
I think
taken.
so. I haven't really gotten much into looking into it. I only recently heard about it, but like there's a lot that's gonna start like really booming here soon, especially like with AI. Like take about like when it first started, like maybe like I don't know when we even started hearing about it. Just kind of came
AI?
It just kind of came out of nowhere.
I think it actually came when Elon Musk took over Twitter. That's actually when you really started seeing the push for it, because Elon's been working on that stuff for a while. And I've actually seen clips from the Joe Rogan podcast of him explaining that AI is our number one blessing and curse that's ahead of us. Like, essentially, I mean, yeah, it's just like the technological
Detroit
advances that we
become
have.
human.
Dude,
It's coming
exactly.
alive.
Ready Player One. I was trying to say that when it comes to AI or whatever, in general, we're talking about the social interaction issue that we're dealing with today. If you incorporate holograms and you incorporate people that are able to essentially run their social life through computers, how much of a worry is that? Like, I mean, if you want to have a family one day, right, and you want to raise kids, bring them up in a world where some of their friends will be robots, it's kind of odd.
I'd say that for right now. Just take it from for anyone who's like our parents who were, you know, teenagers in the 80s, or was it, I think Gen X's, or
Yeah, something like that.
They're always saying like, oh, screen time's bad. You know, it is. You know, blue radiation's pain. You know,
Especially when you're
messes
sleeping.
with the brain waves. But you know, it's also like, you know, when they're raising just all this technology coming out, I was like, you know, is it gonna rot their brains? You know, because there's no doubt we're a lot more antisocial. We're a lot more
Introverted.
than used to. Like
They rather play video games than go
social
out.
media and just like emails, text messages, calls, FaceTime.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, if you, back in the day, from what my parents explained, if you wanted to talk to, like, your girlfriend or,
you'd
like,
have to go there.
Yeah, and see them face to face.
Or like write a letter.
People are
all before-
FaceTiming every night now with your girl or whatever, and just sitting there, not even talking to one another. It's just the fact that they're on face. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse depending on how you look at it, right?
And I can tell you like, the
But-
next step of that, because as a VR user who knows what VR chat is, this is kind of something new that I'm going to bring up a little bit with you.
Just don't
I'm
mention it.
I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but I figured
Please
this will
don't.
be interesting. This will be an interesting idea to mention. So there's this thing in VR chat called what is called Phantom Touch, which basically, and in VR chat, it's basically internet in 3D. But you can be whoever you want. You can be Batman. You can be Spider-Man. You
That's
can be
cool.
Super Mario.
I
You
like
can
that.
be
A furry.
yeah, there's a lot of communities and groups on there, and what Phantom Touch is basically in VR. You know, you can feel your hands. You can like there's actually hand tracking now. That's
Really?
in the beginning stages. It's actually really cool. And if you get a couple $100, pay that in, you can get yourself full body tracking, which I don't have because that's expensive. I just play on there for fun and just talk to people. But it's another thing. You can also talk to people from all over the world.
That part I did like, and yeah, like again, I mean, we just pointed out the negatives. Positives of having this advancement with not only AI, but like you said, VR or anything like that.
You can connect with people.
More connections with people, which I think is the number one thing that can be a cure for a lot of people's illnesses. They need to talk to more people, connect with more people.
I think it's just the issue of just like seeing their actual face, and that's why people are a lot of worried. But
why is that though, in your opinion? Because like
I don't
being
know.
face to face with somebody can be maybe it's the judgment. I feel like the judgment is the number one fear of somebody when it comes to like face to face contact. I guess
I don't know.
Like, what is this person thinking about me right now, or what is this person like analyzing about me.
I don't have a problem with face to face or not.
I'm not saying you do in particular.
Well, I'm just saying I'm saying that because I don't know what to say about that.
Well, yeah. Again, we're speaking from. I mean, I'm an introverted extrovert. So if I had the decision to
Ambivert.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Ambivert.
I feel like both, or like
okay.
between. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like there will be some days where I want to be out and I want to be hanging out with all my boys and doing my thing, but then there's other days where I just want to be on my grind right now. Like, don't leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? So it's all so I could offer that perspective on it, but overall, for somebody that deals with agoraphobia or these really severe subfields of introvertedness, I don't understand that because. Agoraphobia are people that can't even step outside. I guess if we wanted to move to another topic or whatever about your...
I could continue the VR thing because it's actually...
If you want to,
there's a lot more to talk about because...
Sure.
I didn't even explain what Phantom Touch was.
Yeah.
As it sounds. So basically, pretend you're sitting there and someone touches your arm, but you only have your hands. And you can't... unless you have like a haptic suit on, which I think actually those do exist, I'm pretty sure, which is interesting, but... God knows I would ever wear that.
What, that covers your whole body?
Basically, if someone touches you in VR, you feel it.
How's that even possible? Well, maybe it just vibrates.
I mean, it's from Ready Player One, but I think it's like early stages. Same thing with tracking, but
I mean,
Phantom Touch basically means that if someone touches your avatar in VR, that person will feel that. And
so
there's
you
a
can
lot
fight somebody, like if you say, hey.
No, it's... I don't know much about it, but that's the basic definition of it.
Okay. Well,
there's a lot of, and it's such a weird experience because like as someone who doesn't know anything about that, only recently has heard about it, it's like, wow, it's like virtual reality itself, AR, VR, it's becoming such a new and expanding technology. Like take Apple's they announced an actual VR, or it's more of an AR headset, but yeah, I think AI and VR, AR, and just all that stuff is just really on the boom right now, and it's going to continue skyrocketing. Because, and a lot of people have questioned for, when is it going to be that you can't tell what's virtual and what isn't? Because that is a very real issue.
I see that with video games already now. Like, the graphics that come out for certain video games.
Like, I've shown my dad, video games of, with max graphics. Even, Minecraft with shaders. He's like, dang, that looks so real.
Yeah, no. I mean, the video games they had to play back then were like Pac-Man and stuff like that. So imagine the kind of shit that they have to
even
see.
just the early 2000s, the PS1 things, just
but
all
that's
the
nostalgia
all the 3D voxel stuff,
Yeah.
It was all the
classic
classic
games.
age.
Yeah, exactly. Which I feel like that's also a problem too. Though, let's get back on your story in particular. So where you're at now, you're a junior in college or whatever. You've been studying graphic design for 3 years now.
I'm a junior, but yet I still feel like a freshman.
Honestly, I do too. I mean, those past 2 years just went down the toilet hole.
That's another thing. High school is harder because you have a lot more classes and you're there the whole day. The only break you get is lunch.
Yeah.
But in college, you do get breaks, and you get to get to form your own schedule. You get a lot more freedom, And it's a freedom that you have to get used to. But when you get used to, we are juniors now, and and I think you can agree, it is so much more chill, and there's just a lot easier time. I mean, obviously, studying for classes isn't easy because there's a lot of conflicts.
Exams, very hard. Finals times is one of the most stressful parts. But you get that.
If you're a psych major,
too.
if you're an art major, you don't get finals. You get what's called a final portfolio review, which is still stressing.
Well, let me say this though. So I have, of course, taken finals, but overall, I haven't had a lot. There's been plenty, and even within
I actually haven't
classes.
even had midterms before.
Yeah, Maryville runs it a lot different from other colleges. I have some people I know at SAUE, and they are very strict about.
Some majors here do have midterms. If you have a math class, you'll have a midterm.
Oh yeah, if it falls under the general subjects that you would normally find.
But
in high school,
I see it. I don't know, but also it's we might find the finals here hard, or maybe even easier. But then again, we've also used to taking finals because of high school.
That is true. And
a lot of, like they say, high school is prepping us for college. In fact, I wouldn't even say for my high school they over prep me because I'm finding college a lot easier. But maybe that's also maybe because I wasn't used to high school, and maybe that just made certain parts of college easier to get used to.
Well, sure, but one thing I am worried about for me personally, what I've experienced, as much as college can be laid back and how you map out your schedule and stuff, when I actually go into my field, which is not too far from now actually, it's going to be very stressful. I know people that have already entered into their psych careers, behavior technician is my buddy Nathan. He's a behavior technician, and dude, it's full 9 to 5 constant psych around the clock. And I mean, I get it. college is trying to like give you that little bit of enjoyment you get before you really become an adult. But I almost feel like if there's a little bit more discipline mixed with the college approach, it would probably be more beneficial depending on what your major is. Because for me, like, mine's serious. Like, I'm practically gonna be a doctor, especially when I get licensed and everything like that. And I'm just worried because I'm like chilling. I'm having a great time in college. I love college ever since I started.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's almost been too much of an enjoyment.
I'm not like saying that my major is easy.
Yeah.
It has its challenges, but I actually a lot of times I like the challenges because I get to
Same. Well, of
I
course.
get to, because in my case, because I'm an art major, I get to further challenge my creativity and face new challenges and stuff. And I would say that, yeah, I'm sure in the future I'm gonna get hella stressed for whatever, like if I have multiple projects or deadlines.
Why worry about that now, I guess?
But yeah, but I don't know. I just find, in my own opinion, I just found high school to be a lot harder than college, especially socially.
Oh yeah,
we
socially,
separate the education part out and just go to the social, bruh.
Oh,
It
it's
took
a
me
360.
until college to get at least a somewhat finite friend group, and I'm still experimenting.
Yeah, exactly. It's constantly evolving and everything like that. But whenever college starts up, even like with my freshman and sophomore year, like I try to get as active as possible because those are the best. Those are like the golden moments, and you can relate to this where you can meet
Join a club.
people. Yeah, no, go
Join
to
a club.
If you're
Go
entering
to events.
Yes, go to
to
every
fun
event.
stuff.
I mean, Amar, our first RA that we had for Potter Hall,
Yeah.
he said it like we had like a meeting or whatever in the lobby. We had these like every month or so.
Yeah,
and
every
he
single-
preached to us. He said, "Go to everything, experience as much as possible." And man, I agree with that. I almost wish I went to more because of how much people that you meet. And there's Maryville in particular has great communities, but I'm sure other colleges do, of just so much people that like you would not meet in a high school because you're in the local town. You're in a small town typically, and everybody grew up the same and everybody experienced the same. Versus I could talk to a random
that's
guy.
another thing. College
you know?
is. That's another reason why college is a lot better than high school, because instead of being with the same people for multiple years of your life, you get almost like a restart. Obviously, there might
Every
be a
year
couple,
almost.
Yeah, but there might be a couple. There might be like a couple of people come with you, but it's like, you know, in general, like there's maybe even a couple hundred people to almost 1,000 people you don't know.
Yeah.
And tons of new experiences, and everyone's also more mature.
Oh,
and a
dude.
lot more accepting.
Dude,
so
yeah.
you're gonna have a much easier time, kind of being yourself and just finding your kind of niche with
And
people.
it's so easy too. Like when I went to an event, I just go up to somebody, say, "Hey, what's your major?" And boom, right there, you just start talking to them.
Connection.
Yeah, exactly. But you were with a couple other guys that we used to know, and it was like one of those. What was that event called? It was like we were supposed to get in a circle and say two truths
that was
and
the
a lie.
first or second day of orientation.
But no, but regardless, you're gonna start college with a group of people, and you'll end college with a different group of people. But in that process,
You may stay with them, you may not.
you get a couple of people that'll stick through there, and they become like, even with high school, some of my core friends or whatever, they're from high school and they stuck with me through it all, and it actually stronger of a bond. Like if you meet somebody in college and then you continue to be friends outside of that, the bond's going to be so much stronger because you've known them for a long period of time. And these are the developmental stages of us. We're young adults, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when you experience that with another person, it's stronger than if I'm in my 30s and I'm working at a job and I meet you, because you already lived, you know, not your prime years, but you live like your early part of your years, and you kind of figured out who you were then, you know, as opposed to meeting somebody at the end of that, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But overall, yeah, so with now that we're looking forward, I guess, since we covered where you are now, where do you see yourself? I know it's the general question, but I have run this by everybody that's come on. What's your general consensus of where you're going to be at within the next 5 to 10 years, or where you'd want to be?
As a lot of people would say, no one's perfect. And just kind of let me go on this little rant for a minute.
Yeah, you're good.
I have all people consider myself perfect. In fact, I like my imperfectness. I'm a weirdo. I'm an odd person. I'm an oddball.
Wait,
Yeah.
that kind of confused me. I have to cut you off right there because you said that you said you think you're perfect or you think you're imperfect.
No, I like my imperfections.
Oh, you like your imperfections. Like,
Basically, what I say was, in life, you will always have a journey. You'll always have obstacles, another hill to climb yourself up on. It's always the constant ladder of life. Yeah, you might fall a couple times. Yeah, you might stumble down, but you know, you just gotta pick yourself up. And that's where I've got myself now. Like, I am thriving. I am doing a lot better than I did in my past. I struggle with a lot of, you know, like everyone does. Everyone has their own issues that they struggle with, and as time moves on, yeah, sometimes it can take people longer than others to get to that point. But I'd say in my college career so far, life has been becoming a lot better. In the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully working my dream job as a graphic designer, making stuff. I'm actually a minor in creative writing, so even
Nice.
currently I'm writing different pieces because I want to be an author someday.
Yeah.
And I have a girlfriend. We've been dating for almost 2 years now. I love her to death. She's great. She's dope. But yeah, hopefully, maybe, who knows, I'll marry her in the future and then, have a family.
If you're interested in Christian, I'm going to plug him through the outro right now.